Welcome to the shadows of history, where the most chilling tales are often the ones left untold. Today, we'll be diving into three eerie and mysterious cases that have baffled investigators and haunted communities for decades. These stories aren't the ones you'll often hear on YouTube, but their horrors are just as real and terrifying. We'll be journeying through unsolved mysteries, strange letters from a killer, and the haunting silence of an unidentified victim. Let's step into the darkness together. Our first story takes us back to the early 1920s, not in America, but in a small, isolated farmhouse in Hinterkaifeck, Germany. You might wonder, why start with a story from across the ocean? Because the horror of the Hinterkaifeck murders has a way of transcending borders, creeping into the fabric of true crime and horror in ways that influence tales worldwide, including in the United States. The Gruber family lived a secluded life, far from the bustle of the city. Andreas and Casilia Gruber, their daughter Victoria, her two children, and their maid Maria Baumgartner made up the household. But in March of 1922, something deeply unsettling occurred on their farm. It began with strange footsteps in the snow leading from the forest to their home, footsteps that never led back. Andreas, the head of the family, reported hearing footsteps in the attic and finding a newspaper in the house that no one in the family had purchased. Tools went missing and keys disappeared. Yet despite the mounting signs that something was wrong, the Grubers stayed on their farm. On the night of March 31st, 1922, the family's fate was sealed. The perpetrator, who is believed to have been hiding in the house for days, systematically lured the family members into the barn one by one, where they were brutally murdered with a mattock. The killer then entered the house and killed the maid and the youngest child in their beds. What makes this case even more chilling is what happened after the murders. The killer stayed on the farm, living in the Grubers' home, feeding their livestock, eating their food, and even lighting the fireplace. For several days, neighbors noticed smoke from the chimney, but when they finally investigated, they found the grisly scene. 6 lives were brutally ended. And yet, despite extensive investigations, the identity of the murderer remains a mystery to this day. The Hinterkaifeck murders have inspired numerous theories and speculations, from jilted lovers to deranged vagrants. But the truth? The truth is still out there, hidden somewhere in the shadows of that lonely farmhouse. This tale serves as a reminder that sometimes the scariest stories are the ones that leave us with no answers, only questions. Our next story brings us back to American soil, to a cold, rainy day in February 1957. In Philadelphia, a tragedy unfolded that remains one of the city's most haunting mysteries. It's the story of a little boy forever known as the boy in the box. On February 25, 1957, a college student was exploring the countryside near Susquehanna Road when he stumbled upon a large cardboard box. Inside, he found the lifeless body of a young boy approximately 4 to 6 years old. The boy was malnourished, had several bruises, and his hair had been crudely cut, possibly after his death. He was naked, wrapped only in a flannel blanket. The box itself once contained a bassinet, but it offered no clues to the boy's identity. The police were baffled. They scoured missing persons reports, distributed flyers with the boy's image, and even dressed his body in clothes to photograph him in a more lifelike state. But no one came forward to claim the boy. Despite their best efforts, investigators hit a dead end. Over the years, theories have surfaced. Some believed he was the victim of an orphanage or a foster home that had gone unreported. Others thought he might have been sold by his parents and later discarded when he became too much to handle. One woman even claimed that the boy was her mother's illegitimate child and that he had been beaten to death by her parents, but none of these leads were ever proven. Today, the boy in the box lies in a grave marked America's Unknown Child, a testament to a life lost too soon and a mystery that has never been solved. The case is still open and new leads occasionally surface, but the identity of the boy in the box remains one of Philadelphia's most enduring enigmas. The story of the boy in the box is a heartbreaking reminder of how a life can slip through the cracks, forgotten by the world but never truly lost. The silence surrounding this case is deafening, and it's in that silence that the horror truly lies. For our final story, we travel to the vibrant streets of New Orleans, a city known for its lively jazz music, rich culture, and, during the years of 1918 to 1919, a terror that gripped the city in fear: the Axeman of New Orleans. The Axeman was a serial killer who broke into homes at night, using the occupants' own axes to murder them in their sleep. The killings were brutal, swift and seemingly random, but what made the Axeman particularly terrifying was not just his method, but the strange letter he sent to the local newspaper on March 13th, 1919. In his letter, the Axeman wrote, "They have never caught me, and they never will. They have never seen me. For I am invisible, even as the ether that surrounds your earth. I am not a human being, but a spirit and a demon from the hottest hell. I am what you Orleanians and your foolish police call the Axeman." He then went on to say that he would spare the lives of anyone in the city who played jazz music in their homes on the night of March 19th. And so the city was filled with the sound of jazz, pouring out of every house, bar, and dance hall. True to his word, the Axeman claimed no victims that night, but the terror didn't end there. The Axeman struck again, leaving a trail of fear and blood. His victims were often Italian Americans, leading some to speculate that the murders were racially motivated. Others believed he was a deranged individual with a vendetta against grocers, as many of the victims owned grocery stores. Despite extensive investigations, no one was ever caught, and the killings eventually stopped as mysteriously as they had begun. The Axeman of New Orleans has become a legend in the city's folklore, a boogeyman of sorts, but with a chilling reality behind the tale. To this day, the true identity of the Axeman remains unknown, and his story continues to fascinate and terrify those who hear it. The Axeman's letter, his random selection of victims, and the fact that he was never caught add to the mystery and horror of this case. It's a story that feels like it could only happen in New Orleans, a city where the line between the living and the dead is often blurred. Please subscribe to our channel for more unsolved mysteries and haunting tales.